Greetings, and welcome back to the MCOC Encyclopedia. Today, we'll be continuing our journey into Act 6, covering all of the easiest paths. If multiple paths are an option in a quest, I will cover them all. Remember that these are just what I found easier, and your roster and experiences may vary. So let's dive in. Act 6, Chapter 3, Quest Number 3, Revolt. That's a bit harsh. This quest isn't that revolting. This is still 6.3, so no global nodes to worry about. Let's see which path or paths are viable, and then we'll go from there. We actually have two options in this quest, both of which are fine choices, but they depend on your roster. If we have a good resistor counter, then going through Vulture and up to Black Bolt is a great option. Resistor places a physical resistance buff, up to 10, on the opponent when they are struck by a physical attack, and an energy resistance buff when struck by an energy attack. If you can inflict both types of damage, then when the opponent gains a physical resistance buff, they will lose an energy resistance buff, and vice versa. We have a lot of really good resistor counters, though note this path also has bleed, poison, and armor break immunity, so good to bear that in mind. Anyone that can exploit a large number of buffs on the opponent will work really well here. America Chavez, Black Widow Clairvoyant, Dr. Doom, Dr. Voodoo, Kushala, Longshot, Mordo, Rintra, and our ultimate cheese lord, Awakened Ronan. The worst fights on this path are the last three: Hyperion, the Champion, and Annihilus. If you are rapidly dealing with the opponent's buffs though, they shouldn't really pose much of an issue, but something to remember. I also have a full video on Annihilus, so check that out if you need a refresher on how to fight him. If you don't have a good resistor counter, then going through Vulture and She-Hulk and down to Joe Fixit is probably your best option. On this path, they have alternating enhanced specials, meaning that Joe Fixit, Ronan, and Starkey, fights 1, 3, and 5, have unblockable for the first hit of their special 1 if it makes contact, and Kang, Cull Obsidian, and Torch, fights 2, 4, and 6, have the same, but for special 2s. This is on the first hit only, and only if it makes contact. There's also a gold pool on the end of the path, but he doesn't have either of these nodes. The main node on this path, though, is Unblockable Finale. Below 25% health, the defender will go fully unblockable, basic attacks and specials. This is the same node we saw in 6.2.6 versus the path Void. Luckily, there are only really two champions where this is a major issue. All defenders will be fully unblockable, but intercepting them and punishing their heavy and special attacks should provide you with plenty of openings. However, Joe Fixit and his special 1 is completely undexable, so make sure you finish this fight as soon as his health gets low, or just bait the special 2. It's helpful that he is the first proper fight on this path, so you can go in and out if you need to. The other defender to keep an eye on is Human Torch, as his specials can be tricky to dex, but with a bit of practice you can get these down very reliably. For this path, you can basically bring anyone. Cosmic is nice to shut down Stark Enhanced Spider-Man, but that's the only real requirement, even if you can call it that. A heavy attack in that fight will do the job just as well. Maybe a bleed immune for Joe Fixit, just in case you eat a special 1, and maybe an incinerate immune for Torch, but really not required. Load up on your biggest champions and some good boss counters and just shred. And if this video is helping you at all, please check if that like button's unblockable. The boss in this quest is Havok. If you haven't seen my Havok video, I highly suggest you watch that first, as it'll give you all the information that you need to beat Havok, and will help explain why I'm choosing the options that I do. It is a bit old and the audio quality isn't great, but the information's still very good. Looking at Havok's nodes, like normal, we have some that are fairly important, and some that aren't. Force of Will and Enhanced Power Gain are the relatively minor nodes here. Force of Will means that you can't modify Havok's ability accuracy, but this wasn't a strategy we were going to try anyway. Enhanced Power Gain gives Havok plus 50% ability power rate, and this seems like a really important node, but actually barely matters here. Havok gains 2.5% of a bar of power per second, and with this node it's now 3.75%, a really rather small change. Cornered, Extinction Protocol, and Crumbling Armor are the nodes to look out for here. Cornered will give Havok mega power when struck if he is suffering from a damaging debuff. The power gain is high enough here to just rule out using any damaging debuffs at all. Extinction Protocol will give Havok more attack the higher your power is, but it's not too high, so it doesn't really matter as long as you don't get hit. But more importantly, it increases the amount of power he gains when struck by 15% every time he throws a special attack, and this is uncapped. We can actually use this to our advantage to help push Havok to his special 2 more reliably, but it is something that you will notice more and more as the fight goes on. It is good to note that the extra power gain from the enhanced power gain node does not interact with the extra power gain from being struck that Cornered and Extinction Protocol provide. Power gain effects and power from being struck are considered by the game as 2 separate effects. The last node is Crumbling Armor. If you don't hit Havok for 6 seconds, you get a relatively small armor break on you. This will also remove an armor up effect from you, and prevent any more from triggering whilst it's active. Striking Havok will remove this armor break. For those of you that know about Havok's plasma debuffs, this should be setting off alarm bells, as having an armor up against Havok is generally a good idea. Despite all of that, any good Havok counter can work, as long as you stay aggressive. No damaging debuffs to avoid Cornered, and watch out for Extinction Protocol. Colossus is our best option, as he can't be broken except by tech champions, so we don't have to worry about Crumbling Armor either. Warlock, OG Iron Man, Howard the Duck, War Machine and so on will also all work fine. Avoid using heavy bleeds from Warlock, or Special 1 Ruptures from War Machine, to keep Cornered at bay. So for our ideal team, well, we'll need one for the Resistor path, and one for the Joe Fixit path. For Resistor, the best options in my opinion are Awakened Ronin, Longshot, and Dr. Doom, and we can pair them with 2 boss counters. Anyone from the previous list will do fine, but Colossus and OG Iron Man are great options here. For the Joe Fixit path, you can really just bring 5 boss counters if you wanted. The nodes don't have any special requirements. Some burst is nice though to close out the last 25% of the fight, but that's about it. So let's have Colossus and OG Iron Man again, but let's also add Warlock and War Machine. For our last slots, I'm going to bring someone with some more burst. Shang-Chi, Guardian, Massacre or Massacre, Moleman, Proxima Midnight, Professor X, and so on would all work just fine. But I think that I'll bring a Sunspot. Ramp up all of these champions throughout the fight, and then close it down quickly to avoid any issues with the unblockable. Fairly soon after this video goes out, I will try and get up a short commentated video of me going through the path with the exact team I suggest above. I will be taking the Joe Fixit path, but I will also demonstrate a few fights from the Resistor path. They all look pretty similar once you keep going, so you should get a good idea there. They'll be much more relaxed, but should hopefully give some more insight into how I look at getting around the issues presented in this quest. I will also try and answer popular questions from the comments of this video and that video, so please leave yours down below. As always, remember that this is story content, so it won't be going anywhere anytime soon. If you get stuck here and find yourself spending lots of resources, stop and focus on something else. The monthly event quest and side quests are great places to pick up more materials, shards and units, as are battlegrounds and the arena. So that's it. Everything you need to know to clear 6.3.3. I have a whole list of things in the works, including a Bullseye Defender video, a Masteries guide, a Techniques video, a Glossary video, and of course continuing the Act 6 run through. Let me know if there's anything else you would like to see. I also have a Discord server, so please go and join that. It's a great place to get specific advice, make suggestions for future video topics, and as long as I'm awake, I try and be there as much as possible. If you have any questions, please do leave them down below, and please do all the YouTube stuff. Thank you, and I will see you next time.